You're welcome to Kismas with Mr. Osita. In this video, we'll be talking about estimation and approximation. Now, when we talk of estimate, what do we mean? Estimate is a rough calculation, and approximation is nearly correctness. So let's look at this example. We have round off to the nearest 10. We are rounding off these numbers to the nearest 10. Now, when you are asked to round off a number to the nearest 10, there are certain things you must have in mind. We have rules. Now, because we are rounding up to the nearest 10, we have this number as a unit number. We have this one as 10. So this is the number we are considering in rounding up to the nearest 10. But we will consider the number that is the closest. That is our determinant factor. If the number is from 5 and above, you round up. But if it is 4 down, you round down. If you are rounding up, you add 1 to it. If you are rounding down, you add 0. Now, in this case, this is our determinant factor, and we are rounding up. Why? Because it is from 5 and above. Now, when you round up, you add 1 to it. 1 plus 5 will give you 6, and you write your 2. 7 will now turn to 0. Now, in the next one, 53 will now become, remember that we are considering 10, the number in the tens place. Now we have 3 as a determinant factor. This is units, and this is 10, because we are rounding up to the nearest 10. So we are considering this number, 5. Therefore, our determinant factor is 3, which is the closest number to the number we are rounding up or rounding down. Now, because this number is not up to 5, because when it is 5 and above, you round up. When it is 4 and below, you round down. So because it's 3, now we are rounding down. When you round down, you add 0 to it, which will give you 5. And this one you use in rounding down, we change it to 0. So 53 will now become 50. That's you've rounded up to the nearest 10. This one also to the nearest 10. Now let's look at the second example. We have round off to the nearest 100. We are rounding off these numbers to the nearest 100. Therefore, we have here as units, we have here as 10, and we have here as 100, which means we are considering this number. So when you look at the closest number, which is our determinant factor, it is not up to 5. So from 4 down, you round down. So we are rounding down. When you round down, you add 0 to it, which will now become 4. 1 plus 0 will give you 1. And this one you use in rounding up, you change it to 0, and this one change it to 0. Now you've rounded up to the nearest 100. So 4,160 will now be 4,100. Now let's look at the second one. We have 653. Now we are changing it. We are rounding it off to the nearest 100. Now if you are rounding it off to the nearest 100, it will now be, we have here as units, we have here as tens, we have here as 100. So this is the one we are rounding off. Now this is our determinant factor, the number that is the closest to the number we are rounding off. So we have, because this is 5, then we are rounding up and we are adding 1 here. 1 plus 6 will now give you 7. Then this one you use in rounding up without change to 0, and this one 0. So 653 will now be 700. You've rounded up to the nearest 100. Let's look at these evaluation questions. We have there, round off the following to the nearest 10. We have 53 and we have 111. The second one, round off to the nearest 100. We have 7,984 and 4,106. So follow the method which we use in getting this one and solve the evaluation question. You will get them right. Thank you for being with me in this video. Please do not forget to share this video, like, or subscribe.